As a child, I dreamed of exploring the universe, of taking the helm of my own ship and seeing all the great beyond had to offer. But even back then, I knew I would probably never set foot on such a vessel. Oh, how wrong I was. This is a Starship Simulator, a dynamic set meant to look and feel like the inside of an actual starship. And it's my job to run them. Oh, perfect. I spent the better part of a decade learning everything I can about these make-believe spaceships. And today, I'm going to show you around this strange little world and why it's so special to me. But in order to do that, you first need to understand what actually happens on these make-believe starships. A simulator experience, also known as a mission, consists of three main parts. First, the set. As I said in the beginning, a Starship Simulator is a dynamic set meant to look and feel like the inside of an actual starship. Since building an entire fake spaceship would be prohibitively expensive, most just preferred to build the command center of the ship, known as the bridge. The bridge contains everything the crew will need in order to actually control the ship, as well as a bunch of little tricks and doodads we use to make the ship a bit more real. Each simulator is unique, with its design meant to reflect the sort of ship that it is. Everything from the layout to the decor to the mechanics of how the ship runs are used to give the simulator a feel all its own. So if you're in a massive carrier ship like the Magellan, you'll be pretty safe going through a war zone. But if you drop the original Galileo, a shuttlecraft, in there, then you're gonna start shouting like this guy. Captain! Yeah? Oh, I love that video. Which brings us to the second part, the gameplay. Participants collectively serve as the command crew of their own starship, with each one serving as one of the jobs on said ship, such as captain, comms, security, etc. Everything is connected to a central software. That means that the ship actually reacts to the actions you take. So if your ship is about to be hit by, let's say, a missile, then your pilot has to try and move the ship out of the way to avoid a collision. So close. With these first two criteria, you've probably started connecting it to things that sound similar. Escape rooms are the most common comparison I hear, but the Smuggler's Run ride at Disneyland is a close second. Both are great in their own right, but to truly be considered a Starship Sim, there is one more component you need: the story. Like an episode of Star Trek, each mission is a self-contained story that puts your group in the leading role. Your first mission could have you sneaking behind enemy lines to rescue an undercover spy. The next, you could be tasked with exploring a haunted nebula to find a ship that went missing there. And the third could see you unraveling a criminal conspiracy that framed you for murder. All real missions, by the way. Let's see if any of those Space Center veterans can name the missions in the comments. These stories go far beyond just flavor text and dialogue trees. So long as you and your ship are capable of doing it, you can try pretty much anything. Want to try and bribe some pirate with booze you definitely have? Go for it. Want to hack into a nuclear warhead and make it detonate prematurely? I wouldn't recommend it, but you could. Or perhaps, to appease the main villain, you offer to take the place of a small child the villain has spent the whole mission trying to capture. A noble sacrifice that would mean almost certain death. So as you prepare to be taken away, you give a passionate eulogy to your family turned crew. Then quietly walk off the bridge, the last memory of humanity being the muffled sounds of their tearful goodbyes. Or you can pretend to be Chewbacca the whole time. Wait, I can do better. No. The choices you make, however small, create ripple effects that make your mission unique from any other. These three elements are at the core of what makes these experiences so unique and so difficult to describe. It's too narratively driven to be an escape room or a theme park ride. It's too interactive to be a movie or a play. And it's too theatrical to be a video game or tabletop RPG. It's in this weird limbo space between so many different mediums that describing it by what's familiar just doesn't do it justice. The correct term would probably be
immersive entertainment.
But immersive gets thrown around so much in marketing that it's basically just become another buzzword. I won't claim to know better than the many people that have tried before me, but hopefully you can at least understand why this section is as long as it is. Places that run Starship Sims are referred to as space centers. If you grew up in Utah, especially Utah County, then this may be ringing a bell. This one county is the epicenter for Starship Sims. If you count up all of the simulators across the 5 space centers here, you get a grand total of 12 Starship Sims with 3 more on the way. That means there are more fake spaceships in Utah County than there are LDS temples. There's no correlation between the two, but if you know anything about Utah, that's wild. Over 500,000 people have stepped foot onto ships like the Falcon, the Hyperion, or the Apollo, and experienced something out of this world. But there are some, a select few, for whom the experience of being on a starship changes the course of their life forever. Or something like that. I couldn't think of a better segue. Okay, for this next part, I'm going to be using the word flight instead of mission. It means the same thing. I'm just switching it to make it a bit easier on myself. When it comes to flights, there are 3 tiers of Space Center employees. First are the flight directors. Every flight has a flight director. They're in charge and run the majority of the experience. Flying can be a particularly difficult skill to describe, so instead, I'm going to walk you through a clip from a flight I ran a few months back. At the start of the clip, most of the crew are currently off the ship searching for a helpful character on a nearby planet. Using the ship's cloaking device, they were able to approach while staying hidden from the enemy's sensors. This has worked thus far, but what they're about to realize is that the pirates are currently monitoring the area for transports, meaning the away team returning to the ship is about to reveal their position. I'm currently watching the cameras on a monitor out of frame for when the crew complete the transport, thus revealing themselves. Since the crew don't know they've been discovered, I'm going to try and line a bunch of things up for a big reveal. This next part's going to go really quick, so I'm going to pause it as we go so you can see the individual steps of this process. First, I play the sound for the transport they just did. This will signal to the crew that's still on the ship that their teammates have returned. I then select the pirate vessel and open the menu that will eventually start the battle. I start a song that's going to be quiet for about 10 seconds and then get really intense. I then trigger the pirate vessel to fly in an attack, set the lights to red, play an alarm, play the target lock sound, and then announce what is happening as the ship's onboard AI.
Warning, Captain, this vessel's been targeted by RS Mimosa. Incoming weapon.
And then right as the first weapon shot is fired, the music drops.
Let's fire. Warning, Captain, our transport has been tracked.
That was 15 seconds of flying. Most missions are 2.5 hours. The crew may be the ones controlling the ship, but the FD is the one that actually makes it fly. That's why running a simulator is known as flying. Hence, I fly spaceships for a living. Some missions have too much going on for a single person to run it though, which is where the supervisors come in. The supervisor's job is to help run things that the FD wouldn't have time to do themselves. This role is usually found on ships with larger crew capacities. For those sorts of ships, there will generally be 2 supervisors, one on the bridge with the crew, and one in the control room with the FD. The bridge supervisor is there to help the crew. They'll provide hints, take people to the restrooms, provide assistance with the controls, and whatever else may be needed. Sometimes the supervisor will play a character to help maintain immersion, or remain a staff member to ensure they are always available to assist when needed. Regardless of how it's done, the end goal is the same, helping the crew.
My station stopped working.
And getting a good workout while doing it. Gotta love a good ladder. The control room supervisor is equally as important, but very, very different. On ships with larger crew capacities, especially those using less automated controls, there has to be a second person behind the scenes in order to keep up with everything that's happening. The supervisor in this role will be seated right next to the flight director, which is why this role is known as second chair.
Fire! My God!
The second chair operates portions of the controls that require more frequent attention. Things like scans, damage reports, or anything involving talking with crew members on the lower decks of the ship. And then, for situations where the crew need to be able to interact with people in person, we have the volunteers and actors. This group's main responsibility is playing the various characters the crew meet in person, whether it be a helpful scientist, armed thug, or bloodthirsty monster. When not performing acting parts, these team members will do a lot to assist behind the scenes, setting up away mission areas, working to voice characters behind the scenes, the sort of thing that's very important but not often noticed if you aren't paying attention. Wait, you're not tall enough to be me. It may seem weird knowing just how many people are working on this sort of thing. We try not to draw attention to it when people are here, but I'm choosing to break this norm for one particular reason. Immersive entertainment does not lend itself well to showing off the work that goes into making it happen. Like in a movie or a book, it's at its best when the people that actually make it happen are pretty much invisible. While that does mean it is more entertaining and easier to get into, it means that the people that make this stuff work often don't get the credit they deserve. We have focused almost entirely on the aspect of this work that is front and center, the stuff that you see during flights, but that's really just the tip of the iceberg. Before you even step foot onto the simulator for a mission, hundreds of hours have been poured into every aspect of the experience. Engineers designed the layout of the ship, lore experts defined the sort of ship the simulator is, programmers made the controls for the ship, writers created stories that take place on the ship, an FD adapted the story to be workable with the controls, and staff tested the end product to ensure it is the highest quality possible. All so that you can shoot a torpedo while inside of a docking bay, crippling your vessel in the first 2 minutes of the mission. It's a surprisingly common occurrence, but while some may see it as a problem, as a mission writer myself, it's part of why I love it. Too short. Your mom's too short to be me. Almost every story ever told puts you in the perspective of a character. It shows you how they think, how they act, and in the case of interactive mediums like video games, they even let you control them to some extent. Stories, in part, help us to understand the characters and how they'd react to whatever situations are laid before them. But when it comes to missions, there's a problem. The crew are the main characters, but we don't get to know who they are when we write the missions, which poses a problem. How do you write a story if you don't even know who your main characters are? Well, we already said it. Stories, in part, help us to understand the characters. When you sit in that captain's chair, you aren't playing a captain. You are the captain. No one will command the ship for you. No one else can swoop in and make the important call. When that critical moment hits, you don't have the time to stop and think, what would Picard do? Because you're already preoccupied with, how do I stop my ship from exploding? The experience is constantly asking, can you do this? And your choices answer that question. Having this amount of control can be equal parts stressful and exhilarating. There is nothing stopping you from crashing into the sun besides you. And the thing is, sometimes you do crash. But death and failure are just part of your story. It doesn't matter if you've died 0 times or 100. You got to where you are because of the choices you made. So when the mission time is almost up, and success or failure comes down to a single moment, a fake ship with no engines truly flies. Oh, dang it, it's the Admiral. What are they doing here so early? School doesn't start for another hour. Oh, right. We're in a school right now. I was gonna explain it, but we're short on time. You're gonna get out of here. I don't think I have time to explain this to the Admiral. Just head to the transport. I'll set things up for you. Go. Computer, set a transport to Time Colony and then answer the call. Oh! And make sure to grab the comm link in the transporter. I can't guarantee I'll be able to reach it without it. Go!
What are you doing on that ship?
Just checking all the systems before the next mission.
Checks are done in the docking bay, not Saturn.
That's not what my manual said, though this may be an old version.
If you are not docked at Prometheus in 10 minutes, I'm sending the Leo to drag you back.
Well, that's good.
Can't be.
Okay. Artemis out.